Welcome back to Rank and File Sports with Jonah and Connor. Today we're continuing our schedule previews with the Vanderbilt Commodores. But before we get into the video, please make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on our future content. And also comment your thoughts down below on how you think Vanderbilt is going to do in 2025. Taking a look at the schedule, biggest non-conference game is going to be a road trip to Virginia Tech. Other than that, typical really tough SEC matchups with South Carolina, Alabama, Texas, and Tennessee. Overall, you got 7 games at home and 5 on the road, but that schedule difficulty very tough once again this season at an 8 out of 10.
Starting the season off against Charleston Southern, not much needs to be said here. Diego Pavia was gonna pick up right where he left off last season. 100% chance for the Commodores in this one. Then they go on the road to face Virginia Tech. The Hokies are one of those teams that I think are going to be sneaky good. This is kind of a toss-up of a game. I'm gonna lean Vandy on this one, even though it is a road game for them, just because they do have that continuity at quarterback with Diego Pavia coming back. Considering he was also a big focal point of their offense, both through the air and on the ground, I think that he's going to be able to lead this team through this early stretch of games and get a pretty good win here on the road against the Hokies, giving him a 60% chance in this one. Then they go on the road, staying on the East Coast to face South Carolina. The Gamecocks are one of the most electric offenses for next season. Obviously, you have Lenore Sellers at quarterback, who is looking to cement his name as one of the best quarterbacks in college football next season, looking for a Heisman Trophy along with it. This team is going to be loaded after being basically a game away from making the college football playoffs. This Vandy team is going to have their work cut out for them, especially with it being on the road. But we saw what they were able to do last year against a team like Alabama at home. If that will translate to a road setting, could be a huge win for Vandy, but I don't think that's quite going to happen, giving them a 30% chance in that one. Then they're back home to face Georgia State. Shouldn't be too much trouble here. Georgia State has maybe some bright spots, but overall is not going to be able to compete with the likes of the Commodores, giving them a 100% chance here. And Utah State is in a similar boat. They might be a competitive team at times, but overall, I do think that the talent Vandy is able to get in, especially after that last season, should be enough to get them through this game, giving them a 100% chance in this one as well. And then there is Alabama at Bryant-Denny Stadium, probably the most anticipated game for Alabama fans and for Vandy fans. Is Vandy going to go 2 years in a row, or is Alabama going to curb stomp the Commodores and take their revenge? Honestly, this is looking like it's going to go back to the norm. I think Kalen DeBoer is going to figure out in year two how to really lead this Alabama team. Depends on who they have at quarterback. I believe Ty Simpson is the favorite right now, considering he has been at the program for the last few seasons and was the backup to Jalen Milroe last year. But I wouldn't be surprised if Diego Pavia is able to pull off another upset, this time at Alabama. It's going to be a lot harder, especially with his leading receiver, who was a tight end, I might add, in Eli Stowers leaving. This is going to be an uphill battle for Vandy, but we saw what they were able to do last year, so I'm not going to count them out. But Alabama will be favored in this one, giving Vandy a 20% chance to get a win at Bryant-Denny Stadium going into their first bye week.
After that, you got a really tough matchup at home with LSU. And we actually have this at a 45% chance for Vandy to pull the upset. This probably will surprise a lot of people, but while LSU is one of the potential, I don't know if I could even call them a dark horse because a lot of people think they have a chance to make the college football playoffs. We do think that this Vanderbilt team is going to be able to compete with them. And if we had to pick anybody on the schedule for them to potentially upset, this is probably our favorite as they get LSU at home. They get a bye week right before it. A lot of things really playing into this being a potential trap game for the Tigers. So that's why we have Vandy at just a 45% chance to win there. Now you got Missouri at home after that. 70% chance for Vanderbilt here. Again, probably seems high to a lot of people, but keep in mind, Missouri lost Brady Cook and Luther Burden to the NFL draft, and it's really going to depend on how they're able to replace those two guys. Either way, I don't think they're going to get near the same production, and I actually like this Vanderbilt team better than Missouri next season, which is why we have Vanderbilt favored at home all the way up at 70%. Schedule gets tougher after that, going on the road to face Texas. The Commodores kept this one interesting for a little while last season, but ultimately the Longhorns pulled away. Now that they're having to go on the road, I think Arch Manning and the Longhorns once again are going to be able to take care of business. Only a 20% chance for a Commodore victory. Now, Auburn at home after that, probably going to be another pretty good game. Some people are pretty high on this Auburn team. Once again, we like Vandy better. So we do think that while Auburn will give them a fight, that this should still be a win for Vandy. They'll be favored here at home at 70%. After that second bye week, you got Kentucky at home. Kentucky was one of the worst teams in the SEC last season, and we expect Vandy to be much better than the Wildcats this year, which is why we have them at an 80% chance to win. And then finally, closing out the season with their in-state matchup against the Tennessee Volunteers. Nico is back at quarterback for Tennessee, and this team made the college football playoffs last year. Even though Tennessee is going to have to travel to Vanderbilt, this one should still be a game in which the Volunteers are favored and will most likely win. But don't count Vandy out. They could still pull off one last shocking upset, maybe ruin Tennessee's playoff hopes. You never know.
Yeah, looking at the season as a whole, this is going to be pretty interesting. I think a lot of people are writing off Vandy's season last year as kind of a one and done Cinderella run. That's not going to happen again. I'm not entirely on board with that. I'm not saying they're going to go from like a just above 500 team to a 10-win team. I think that's a little over the top. But I think having this team at 8 wins isn't crazy to say. I think they're probably going to get at least one big upset against one of these juggernauts of an SEC team. I do think that LSU game is perfect. I do think Tennessee is another big culprit just because it is at home right at the end of the season. Tennessee's going to be playing maybe a little scared if there's playoff hopes on the line. They're like, okay, we can't lose this game because this is for our playoff spot. Overall, I think this Vandy team can succeed. It's going to be an uphill battle with so many of these SEC teams that are going to be at the top of standings that they have to play, and a lot of them are on the road as well. But I have faith in Diego Pavia to bounce back, or not even bounce back, just keep rolling from what he was able to do last season and lead this Commodores team.
Yeah, I agree. This is going to be a really good season for Vanderbilt, I think. And I mean, if like you were saying, if they can take care of business everywhere where we have them favored, and then just pick up one upset, this Vanderbilt team could go 8-4, which is even better of a record than last year. So personally, I think that's where we're going to see Vanderbilt. I like the Commodores at 8-4. Speaking of last season, Vandy went 7-6, obviously with the huge upset win over Alabama as one of those wins. Now, our projected win total for this season is actually higher than that. It's 7.3 and 4.7. way higher than a lot of people think Vandy can do this year. But we do really like Diego Pavia and this Commodores team, which is why we are predicting them to go 8-4. This is way over the Vegas over/under, which is set at 4.5. Although they do have the over slightly favored, they're still really only saying that Vandy's probably going to finish 5-7. We think the Commodores will do much better than that, which is why we have them going 8-4. So thank you guys for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in our next video.